As part of our Eye on America series, we are getting an inside look at the fight against a major suspect contributing to the U.S. drug epidemic. The Drug Enforcement Administration says the drug lord known as El Mencho is one of its top targets. The U.S. is offering, get this, $10 million for information leading to his arrest. Adriana Diaz is in Chicago, one of the many cities where neighborhoods have been hit very hard by a massive flow of drugs. Adriana, good morning. What are you learning?
Good morning. We're standing along I-290 in Chicago. This is also known locally as the Heroin Highway. That's because this is the road many drug users take to come into the city and buy drugs. Last year alone in Chicago, nearly 800 people died from drug overdoses. And the DEA took us inside neighborhoods where many drug deals go down.
There's another siren.
Sirens are part of the soundtrack in pockets of Chicago's West Side.
Over the left.
The DEA's Brian McKnight took us there to see the drug trade up close.
She comes right now.
That's where we saw an ambulance responding to a suspected overdose. We were in unmarked cars, but the locals knew better.
He's not happy with us. We're shutting down his business for the day. And there's people in the alley.
We did spot a sale nearby where several people entered an alley to buy drugs.
There's literally a line. Now everyone's coming back out.
Yeah. See, the guy's got his right hand, he's putting in his pocket.
What percentage of drugs in Chicago do you think come from Mexico?
A significant amount, probably about 90%.
90%?
Yeah.
The arrest of notorious Mexican drug lord El Chapo Guzman has done little to stem the flow of drugs into the U.S. That's because a rival kingpin has forced his way into the void, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known simply as El Mencho. The DEA says his cartel, called Cartel Jalisco or CJ&G, is responsible for roughly a third of the drugs entering this country by land and by sea.
He's the number one priority for DEA and federal law enforcement in the United States.
Matthew Donahue is the DEA's top agent in Mexico and has helped uncover dozens of El Mencho's drug labs in the jungle. El Mencho used to live in California, where he was arrested at 19 and deported back to Mexico. That's where his drug empire grew by force. He once shot down a Mexican army helicopter and was suspected in this public hanging this summer.
Is he the most brutal cartel leader that you've come across?
He's definitely one of them. His group definitely does some of the worst murderous and revengeful things that we've seen against innocent human beings.
Back in Chicago, the Mexican drugs seized are so toxic they can't be handled without protective gear. And at the DEA's lab, packs of cocaine are stamped with traffickers' brands. Agents are now seizing potent mixes of heroin and fentanyl. It's a daily occurrence that needs to be stopped, says acting DEA Administrator Utam Dillon.
Their drug trafficking begets violence on the streets, poverty, anguish throughout the entire country.
Can you stay with me? Open your eyes.
The aftermath is unmistakable. This Chicago man survived this overdose, but last year more than 67,000 Americans did not. While most drugs come from Mexico, the DEA says that many cartels are getting their ingredients for opioids from China. Meanwhile, El Mencho is so powerful, the agency says, in part because he has entire police departments in Mexico on his payroll. And that makes it even harder to capture him. Anthony?
Adriana Diaz with the ongoing war on drugs. Adriana, thank you.